If you have moving on your mind, I have two things I'd love to share with you today that I'm hoping will be helpful. Some market data so you have an idea of how things are moving that will help you inform your selling and buying experience. And then towards the end, I will share my neighborhood market report with you. Now, I've shared this in the past and it's always been an option. Every single week, I upload a link underneath my videos so you can decide if it's something you want to subscribe to. We can set these market reports up at any frequency you want. So it could be annually, it could be weekly, monthly, whatever. This information is probably most helpful for sellers, but buyers also will find some nuggets in there that will definitely help inform their decisions. I'm Erica Carlson. I'm with a boutique brokerage called Bricks Real Estate. And below, if you want to get a hold of me for any reason, whether you have a question about the information I'm sharing today, or you're ready to get started, there is a link below that directly connects you to my calendar, and I'd love to hear from you. Second, let's start with showings per week per listing. This is the data that gives us the best idea of how many people are out there shopping. And so what you should notice from last week, October 23rd, is we were at 2.2 for Wright, and now we're down to 2. So there's just that gentle slowing of buyer activity. Maybe some people have gone under contract, maybe because of interest rates, or again, the election is affecting people. And it's just that time of year. Like if we look at this year to year, we're going to see this natural slowing as we head into November. So there's nothing surprising about that. Hennepin hardly moved. They were at 3.4 last week, and now they're at 3.3. So just to make sure I'm speaking plain English here, we're talking about the 250 to 500K range. We're talking about how many showings per week per listing in that price point is happening. So about 2 in Wright and about 3, not even 4 in Hennepin. It's pretty slow out there. So of course that makes me wonder, well, how does that compare to last year? And I did already peek without you guys, and I'm going back to October of last year. And, it doesn't line up exactly. So we'll use October 25th. It was 2.02, very precise of me. So 2, and Hennepin was about 3. So really there's no change. This is exactly what happened last year. And if you had an agent that was tracking data like this, you could actually have a conversation with them when you're selling your house and say, tell me what it was last year. I mean, most people don't talk like this, but this is just such a great tool to have in my tool belt. And the nice thing is that at Bricks, we track this data at a larger scale. We just focus on the Twin Cities metro, and I'm niching it down to Wright County. Now, it was average 44 days and median was 23 days. So let's go back to today. And we're at 36.5 for average days on market and 25 to median. Now, in all fairness, I have changed how I look at that data. So take that with a little bit of a grain of salt. I really focus on what is literally in pending the last 7 days to get that data. The problem with a lot of data sources that we're given as agents is that they're a month old. And the beauty of what I'm providing to you is that we are really getting into the week by week data, which does make it a little bit different than if somebody uses a different program we have. And I'm not trying to to be like braggadocious or anything like that. I'm just saying it is very, very much granular down to just our area, which can be helpful. Let's talk about actives and pendings and closings. The pendings and closings just aren't particularly that remarkable, so we'll kind of just touch on that first. We're up a little bit on pendings over last week, but overall not really, as you let your eye go down this column. And then the closings were at 179. We were at 194 last week. You got to remember these people went under contract 30 to 45 days ago. So what we're looking for is trends over time, and nothing's really jumping out at me in those columns. In terms of actives, we have 639, and then no contingencies 578. And if you let your eyes just go up this column, that's kind of sticking with where we are. It looks like last week we were at some peak. I mean, it is interesting that we went from 656 to 639 in such a short amount of time. So you do wonder how many of those people went into contract, and how many of those people pulled their houses, because that could have encompass people that have been on the market for months and months, right? And there's just probably some people that have thrown their hands up and said, we didn't sell by now, we're going to be done for the season, we'll relist. So if you see a property that it was on the market for a long time and you're wondering where it went, reach out to your favorite agent. It doesn't mean you can't still buy it, but it does mean that they've probably pulled it for winter, and that's absolutely no surprise to me. There's kind of a point where people hit where it's like, I guess it's just not going to sell this year. And around this time of year is definitely when people are going to pull back. Let's do a quick look back on last year. And it is a big difference in terms of amount of properties to pick from. So you do have more choice when you look at, there was only 550, 500 with no contingencies, and now we're in the sixes. So I'm going to show you one more graph to conclude this segment. And what you're looking at is Wright County in a general way, and we're looking at homes for sale. So we're piggybacking the information I just shared with you, but I want to make it a little bit more visual. Because forever we would say to folks, there's nothing to buy, there's no inventory. And it was certainly true, and I'm going to show you that. And let's start with this one. This is the last year, so this is going back. I'm probably going to toggle on and off, just forgive me as my camera goes on and off here. So here we're at January of 2023, and here we're today, which is the best I can do, is September. Like I said, this stuff is about a month old. So we went from 504 to 550. It's really actually not that much of a change, right? So like that doesn't, even though this is going up, which seems like, oh, there's so much more inventory. Not really, like actually, because you're just comparing it. It's just 50 different houses. Like that's not going to rock anybody's world in terms of, if you're out there shopping, you're probably not going to feel that, for example. So let's kick it back to 3 years. And now we see more of a dip. So it's almost like it got low because it was winter and then it came back. So that's not super interesting either. Let's go back further. Now there's a bigger change, and I'm going to go all the way back. And I just want to make sure I'm on the right thing. So this is the graph I really wanted to share with you guys, because this is the one that drives home the point of like what's happening with inventory out there, and our real estate agents telling you the truth about what's happening. Because how do we know? Like, we're not out there shopping every single year of our life. How do we feel this? And an agent would feel it because they're going to be able to tell by the way things are moving and how offers are getting accepted or lack thereof, et cetera, et cetera. So let's just kind of do a quick, so you kind of understand. Again, my camera is going to toggle on and off, so forgive me. So this is today, but it looks like it's only going to August. Now let's go all the way back here. This is 2008 of January. Let's think about what was happening at this time, right? This was the crash. This is when a lot of houses went into foreclosure, and unfortunately a lot of people lost money in all sorts of parts of their life, not just in real estate, but we can see it here in real estate. So what we're seeing here is the most amount of inventory that we've had going back to 2000, looks like 5, was around 2008. And then we see this decline over the years, right? Because this is a lot of time here that we're going through. And then we see the lowest point, which is December of 2021, which really isn't that long ago, right? This is, kind of what we call the pandemic years, okay? We're trucking along sort of quote unquote normal. And then we have this dip and the demand goes up. So inventory goes down. And now we see this slight recovery here. And it's not like it's shot up here to these years. And I don't predict it's going to be up here anytime soon. And then the last thing I want to point out to you, just kind of interesting. So if we're at like about 1,800 properties, we're able to purchase around 08, early 08. That compares to 550 in September 2024. So when we were here, we truly were in an inventory shortage at like the highest level we've seen in a really, really long time. It wasn't a lie. We're in the 300s here. You can see we're pushing into the 600s. We've talked about that in the past. It's a recovery, but it only feels like it because in comparison, we just came out of such an incredible shortage. So when I'm telling you guys week to week, like, hey, this is interesting. The inventory is going up. It seems so high. It's like I'm also getting a little bit too like in my head of not getting a bigger picture. What too high would be like is 1,800. That would be a crisis, it looks like to me, right? Just based on this data, this is where the sky has fallen in our market. So when we push up into the thousands, over 1,000, then like we're going to have a more interesting conversation. But each week I keep telling you guys inventory is going up, and this is interesting. And it's interesting, but only to an extent, because I need obviously this bigger picture of, you know, let's see here. So this is still at 742 in 2013. And a lot of agents that have been doing this longer than me have said these are some of their best years in real estate. This is probably when things like felt a lot calmer after the crash and so forth. So I hope that gives you guys some perspective of things that are going on. Last thing I'll show you since I have you is just price. Let's look at sales price in Wright County. Again, this is the entire county, so it's on a particular city. Notice it's the opposite. It's the inverse of the last graph. So the prices, that's median. Let me switch to average. There we go. So we're at 416 in September of 24. So we're at the lowest here in 2011, which is interesting because I think you're still dealing with all the aftermath. You know, prices were quote unquote normal at that time, right? 06 into 07, and they just keep going down because there's too much inventory. People can't sell. They're doing a lot to just get rid of the property to move on with their life. And then you see this recovery from 12 and it keeps going up. So hopefully you found that interesting. And so what I'd like to do is show you a market report quickly. If it's not for you, that's fine. But I just want to at least show it to you if you've never seen what one looks like before. And we've been tweaking it from the program that I subscribe to, and I can give these out for free. So if it's something you might be interested in, stay tuned so I can show you what those look like. So no matter where you are in Minnesota, I can set up a market report for you. So let's say you have a second property up north, or you have an investment property in the city, we can customize these market reports, and it's even possible that I can set up more than one for a person. The one you're seeing on my screen is an example of an address particular one, and it is giving a home value, which is fine. You know, I can toggle that on and off, and sometimes they're just wrong. So if you do get one with a price on it, please don't get overly invested on what number they're showing you, because it's just automated and there's algorithms in the background that are coming up with that number. There's no reason to be offended or upset if you think it's high or low. And you know, you can change your data on your property because sometimes people's information on property taxes or their old MLS data is outdated. And so that would be changing things, of course. It does have an equity calculator when I have your address. However, if you're not comfortable giving me your address, like if you give me like a Cub Foods nearby, then obviously we need to reduce all of this because it's really going to make it confusing. But there is a way for me to set this up in a more generic way. So if you just give me a city that you want to follow, we can do it that way. And I already have Buffalo, St. Michael, Delano, and Rockford set up. I hope I covered all four there, but we can set up other ones. So every area will have a different temperature gauge for the market. And you know, this isn't my favorite way of figuring out if it's a seller's or buyer's market. This one's set up for Maple Grove, so it is a little bit hotter than, like, let's say if I pulled Rockford, it would be closer to the buyer's market. Again, overall, we're in a buyer's market, so I don't want that to be misleading. And I can't change this information if I feel any of it's inaccurate. So there is a genericness to it. Now, the thing I love the most about a market report that you might appreciate is you can toggle the actives and pendings and solds on and off. So let's say your neighbor had their house on the market and you really wanted to know what it sold for. Now you can dig down into that information. Maybe somebody just listed their house and you want to see what they're selling it for and what it looks like inside. This is going to save you the work of going on and trying to figure out their address and then going to Zillow and different websites like that, okay? But that's my favorite thing. It's not really meant to be used like to figure out like your price analysis or anything like that. It's just to give you a quick snapshot to make your life a little bit easier. Like I said, quarterly, monthly, weekly, like, you know, if you're really thinking about selling, you might want this monthly or weekly. And if you're like, selling's not even on my mind, you might want it just annually so you can keep track of what's going on in your neighborhood. It's completely up to you. Notice there's even a button here that'll let you see all Maple Grove homes, like if this was too niche down and you wanted it broader. So there's a lot of options there, and it's just something that I'm offering for free to make your life a little bit easier, because to me, education is power, and understanding these things really bring you confidence and the ability to kind of get it right when you go to buy and sell. And that's exactly why I'm here. So I know you're my ride or die if you made it to the end of the video. So I appreciate you. And as always, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to call, text, reach out to me. through a DM. Hopefully I will see it that way. And I hope you have a fantastic week, and happy Halloween too. Thanks. Bye-bye.